Hey guys, and welcome back to a new video from your what guys. Today I'm going to talk about something that's popped up in Squad's Discord server, some discussion suggesting that the Leopard should be buffed in some way because they say that it's the worst modern tank in the game. And yeah, I completely disagree. I think it's loads of shit, and there is not enough evidence to sustain that that's the case. For that, I'm going just to showcase some data from all tanks, and I'm going to compare them side by side and give my opinion. So if we are thinking about why a tank is better or worse than the other, first we have to take into account the stats, right? So if we are taking into account these stats, we can see here if you're taking, for example, the reload now, we can see that the Abrams is the quickest with 6 seconds. The Leopard is the second quickest with 7.5. Then is the Challenger with 8 seconds, and then is the T72 with 8.3. I'm going to refer the T72 B3 and the T72 as T72 because they actually do share the same stats. So it was a no-brainer for me. I'm not going to take into account the T62 because that's not considered a modern tank, like a last-gen tank, let's put it that way. And, it's actually the worst tank in the game by a mile, just because it's the oldest of them all. And that means that the average between those four tanks is around 7.5-ish, 7.45 seconds, which is actually the same as the Leo. So the Leo has an average reload. For turn rotation, we have that the Challenger is the quickest with 7 seconds. Then comes the Leo with 9 seconds. Then the Abrams with 11, and last the T72 with 12 seconds. That means that the average is around 9.75, which is also kind of average for the Leopard. For top speed, the quickest now is the T72 with 80 kph, then followed by the Abrams 72, then the Leo 68, and the Challenger with 59, making the average around 769.75, which is also average for the Leo. And we have to take here, I think, into account that the people don't take into account is that the Leopard has the best off-road speed in the game. Here, it has super good transmission. That means going off-road doesn't make him lose as much speed. So yeah, the suspension is super good, and that makes him super fast going off-road. So this will be shown really well if you're playing a map like Talil, for example, in which going off-road is more or less a norm. So yeah, the Leopard can be really fast if you go off-road compared to other tanks. For example, the T72 does suffer a lot on off-road scenarios, but it's really fast on road. So yeah. And for the elevation, this is really important, and this is something that not many people take into account. The elevation for the T72 is only -5 degrees and 30 degrees positive. So that means that the elevation on the T72 is super bad, atrocious. For example, for the other NATO tanks, is mostly common norm to have -10 degrees and 20 degrees elevation, but the Leopard has only 9 degrees and 20 degrees elevation, which is a little bit less, but it's not noticeable. That means that the T72 is really not good at climbing up hills and fighting on deflates and all that kind of fighting. He has to be flat because he cannot put the barrel down or up. So it's a problem, and yeah, and it's the smallest one of them all. So it's really hard for the T72 to go hold down. Whereas the other tanks have it easy to just pick their turret over that hill and only show their turret, which is obviously a great thing to do. Another thing, people say this that the Leopard is bad. I guess because the ammo rack on that it's super easy to hit, right? But the good thing about it, and not many people talk, is that by having such a good depression and elevation, you can actually very effectively hide that ammo rack. Not only that, but it being a super fast vehicle off-road and being super competitive in every single aspect in the game makes it that if you are smart about it and you know your weaknesses, you can actually perform really, really good. I'm not gonna say as good as the Abrams because for me the Abrams is completely overpowered. But for comparing the other three vehicles, the T72, the Charlie, and the Leopard, I would say that the Leopard is by far the best of the three. It's true, it's easy to Amarak, but same goes for the T72 and same goes for the Challenger. Although from those three, I would say the Challenger is a little bit harder, a little bit, just a little bit, but it's not that much of difference. The problem is, in my opinion, is that the T72 is the weakest tank of them all. And if you see the stats, there is the only thing that excels at is top speed. And yeah, it's really the only thing because the rest is dead last. Like the reload is atrocious compared to the Abrams, for example. It's 2.3 seconds slower for some reason. The turret rotation is the worst by far. And also the gun sights aren't great for close quarters or anything. And yeah, and the elevation is atrocious. And the reverse speed is really bad. It has the worst reverse speed by far on only 5 kph. So, in my opinion, if we have to change some stats and we have to fix some tanks to make them more competitive, in my opinion, we should fix the T72. And how do we fix this? I think it's very easy. You don't have to do many changes, and the only change I would make would be to improve the reload, the autoloader reload from 8.3 to 7.1, and because that's the actual reload rate of the T72B3. I don't know why they don't put that in the game, but yeah, it should be 7.1, and that will make the T72 a little bit more competitive in my eyes at least. Mm, so just checking this data, I don't see the reason why the Leopard is bad. I think the Leopard is a really strong vehicle if you actually play it and know their weaknesses. It's a really cool, that's really fast, really maneuverable. Uh, it's easy to hide your armor rack. It's really strong at range, and it has an insanely good hold down position. If the Leopard goes hold down, it's by far the hardest tank to penetrate. The hitbox on that mantlet that you have to hit, it's super small, so being hold down, the Leopard becomes a really strong vehicle. It can even sometimes beat the Abrams. And you know, you don't have to be a master to say why the Abrams is the best. Not only has the fastest reload, which is obviously quite a big advantage because you can fire more rounds. It has a bad turret rotation, well, a below average turret rotation. It's also really fast. But the great thing about the Abrams, apart from having great elevation, the great thing about the Abrams is the inability to Amorak it. It's super hard to Amorak, and that means that you are almost immune to tows, to that one tow potential that all the other tanks have. The Abrams is immune to it. Maximum you can deal 50 damage to that thing from the front, I mean. And that means that on average, unless you know how to shoot the glitchy spot on the mantlet, which is sometimes not so easy to hit, it means that the Abrams is a 4 to 5 shot kill for the most part, which makes them super strong, also having the fastest reload rate, which is insane to me, how overpowered the Abrams is. So yeah, that was it, guys. I don't really understand this discussion that was in the Discord channel, on the squad's Discord channel. I don't understand. I think that the Leopard is perfectly fine where it's at. I think it's a really strong vehicle if used correctly, and maybe the size aren't great. Uh, but yeah, I mean, statistically, it's fucking great. So yeah, that was it, guys. Really, I just wanted to point that out and give me your thoughts in the description. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.